As an enjoyer of the Alien franchise, the moment it was revealed that the character Kay in Alien Romulus was pregnant, I thought, yeah, this won't turn out well. And it didn't. I enjoyed Alien Romulus just fine. I saw it for what it was, a fresh start for the Alien series, a back-to-basics presentation welcoming enough for new fans, yet peppered with enough references and Easter eggs to keep old fans intrigued. Admittedly, some of those winks and nods were kinda painful, but they weren't enough to detract my enjoyment. One of the themes prevalent throughout the series, which temporarily rears its ugly head in Romulus, is the horror of motherhood. Although it's often described as beautiful and fulfilling, the biological realities of motherhood are undeniable. The woman's body becomes a receptacle for another living organism, one who shares in her nutrients, growing and maturing, imparting vast physiological changes to the parent, until birth, by all accounts, an agonizing process, with pressurizing contractions, the expulsion of fluids, great shifts of tissue and muscle, and finally, the welcoming of new life, something new, yet familiar, writhing in the cold air of the world outside the womb, shockingly, yet undeniably, yours. Since the beginning, the Alien series has aimed to twist this theme to more depraved levels. Notably, the only victim of xenomorph implantation in 1979's Alien is Thomas Kane, someone who, under no other circumstances, would ever experience the physiological effects of pregnancy and birth. Thus, for him, it is terrifying, gruesome, and horrific on an existential level. By all accounts, it should be wrong, insane, diabolical for a biological male to give birth. And yet it happens here, and the end result is just as wrong, insane, and diabolical. Additionally, his encounter is entirely non-consensual, and Kane is forced to carry the burden of this traumatic act up until birth, a humiliating, graceless process which destroys him. Regardless of your thoughts on the issue, the idea of carrying the incarnate imprint of your assaulter, nourishing it against your will, is uniquely tragic and unsettling. And based on what we know about alien biology, the fact that the host's body tissue literally forms the nascent chestburster takes this idea to a deep, cutting extreme. It's unknown whether Kane ever had human children, but as parenthood is a way to pass on and cement a legacy, Kane certainly did just that. The creature on the Nostromo, at the end of the day, is Kane's child, whether he likes it or not. I want to diverge a little and discuss another prominent horror franchise that explored similar themes. No, seriously. Considering the Venn diagram between Alien fans and FNAF fans probably looks like an off-angle profile of SpongeBob's eyes, some of you might be thinking, what, does the bear get pregante? Not really. Fazbear Frights is an anthology book series featuring short, story-length horror tales set within the FNAF universe. Although regarded as a 21st century equivalent of Goosebumps, many of the stories are unfortunately poorly written, with weird, unfulfilling narrative decisions and a general lack of cohesion. Of all the entries, the most controversial also happens to be creator Scott Cawthon's least favorite. In the Flesh, the second story in Fazbear Frights number 5, is infamous for its portrayal of a male protagonist impregnated with a fetal variant of Springtrap, one of FNAF's primary antagonists. And to be honest, hearing that Cawthon looks down so hard on this story kinda surprised me. While the term mpreg, or male pregnancy, has become a meme outside niche art circles, I mentioned in my review of In the Flesh that there is something more going on there. In the story, the protagonist Matt divorces his wife due to his own insecurities with pregnancy and child-rearing. He considers pregnancy a vile process that robs women of their attractiveness, which then sucks the passion out of relationships when parenting comes into the mix. Seeing how Matt can never bear the physiological effects of pregnancy himself, one could read this as a very selfish, shallow, and bitter perspective. So Matt experiencing his own pregnancy, along with the exaggerated physical and behavioral changes that come with it, is an instance of dramatic irony in forcing a man to take on a female experience he so strongly abhors, with disastrous results. The parallels between this, and Ridley Scott's original intent with the xenomorph, are quite apparent, and even the revolting climax, where Matt cuts open his own stomach with a kitchen knife to abort the creature, bears some visual similarities to imagery we've seen in alien movies past. However, this fetal Springtrap never makes another appearance, and these themes do not recur or develop anymore among the rest of FNAF. Moving back to Alien, while motherhood is forcibly perverted with male chestburster victims, in one noteworthy instance, it is embraced and explored in a more inspiring light. Carl Jung deemed the Earth Mother an archetype embedded in the collective subconscious, something indelible in our minds by dint of being human. The Earth Mother is the source of all worldly life. From her waters spring fertility and growth, just like water on Earth. She is a receptive nurturer, intrinsically connected to all her children's emotions, as they will always be a part of her. She is also a guide and teacher, finding purpose in helping her children find their own purpose. Even when the benefits to her might not seem obvious, or maybe even detrimental, she gives and provides because that's what she does. This trope is embodied in the franchise's leading lady, Ellen Ripley. While her role as Earth Mother is not apparent in Alien, its sequel, Aliens, is where she shines. Ripley is certainly an action hero, but it's not power or prestige she wishes to obtain, goals which are more stereotypically masculine. Instead, she devotes herself to a beacon of innocence in a hostile world, risking her own life to preserve another's. Newt, the scared, abandoned colonist survivor, becomes Ripley's surrogate child, and their battle for survival parallels their adversaries, the alien queen and her own progeny. While Ripley and Newt's survival is contingent on the preservation of greater ideals of purity and hope, the xenomorph's survival is contingent on the desecration of the innocent, of pillaging and violating the bodies of others, mere chaff for their own propagation. Fortunately, the Earth Mother's strength and resolve beats out her hellish counterparts. Well, as with most big cinematic franchises, a good clean ending just isn't enough. Alien 3 sees Ripley incubating a queen embryo, a last-ditch middle finger from the previous film's queen to defeat her enemy. The other xenomorph on Fury 161 notably spares her life when it detects that Ripley is gravid. The Earth Mother, however, recognizes that she is poisoned with a hellish brood. Her purpose as provider and nurturer has been usurped. Now she nourishes a hellspawn with her body, and letting this poisoned child out into the world will not only jeopardize her life, but the lives of others, should the beast be allowed to grow and sire offspring of its own. The only way to attain peace, according to the Earth Mother, is to sacrifice herself and her kin against the wishes of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, who wants the embryo for their own purposes. And as she throws herself into the fiery pit, she extends one last comforting gesture, holding her newborn child against her, assuring that it would know some semblance of motherly love before their demise. And it could have been left at that. Except it wasn't. Alien Resurrection features a Ripley clone, a functioning human tainted with xenomorph DNA, a fundamentally corrupted Earth Mother. Her child is also resurrected, the Queen reconstructed from her blood, who is tainted herself. She eventually grows a womb and births a more distinctly hybridized child, the Earth Mother's dark legacy taken to the ultimate logical extreme, which comes full circle when the newborn imprints on Ripley and sees her as its true mother. Wait, if the newborn came from the Queen, which gestated inside Ripley, doesn't that technically make Ripley the newborn's grandmother? Someone who's a bigger Alien fan than me, let me know in the comments. This newborn is still a destructive monster, something whose mere existence is an affront to the Earth Mother. It might not have been aware of its actions, and it might have conveyed something like sorrow and pain, but it could not be allowed to live. In a more explicit parallel to Alien 3, Ripley lures the newborn into a sense of comfort by showing it affection and maternal love, before condemning it to the void. Still, even this necessary act elicits a semblance of grief from the Earth Mother. In a way, just like Cain before her, this newborn was her legacy, her child. Something that, by dint of her being a mother, will never let go. This dark amalgamation of love, tragedy, and horror finds its roots in the two prequel films, Prometheus and Alien Covenant. These films introduce chemical A0-3939X.91-15, which I will henceforth refer to as the pathogen, a highly mutagenic substance developed by an alien race called the Engineers that incurs a variety of effects on its victims, including complete degradation, infectious mutation, and the procreation of distinct new life forms. It is a cycle of both natural and artificially induced influences across these two films that compels the pathogen to give rise to two species, Homo sapiens, mankind, and Internevicus raptus, or the xenomorph. In other words, the pathogen is as much present within mankind as it is the xenomorphs, and the themes discussed so far can find their roots in this mysterious black substance. In Prometheus, we see a progenitor of the facehuggers with the trilobite, a creature gestated via a pathogen-infected Charlie Holloway's sexual relation with his lover, Elizabeth Shaw. Shaw, a devout Christian and also infertile, somehow managing to conceive and birth this creature, boasts Marian parallels. Even her child somewhat fulfills the role of a messianic figure, spreading its own progeny and giving rise to something bold and incendiary. Unlike the biblical Virgin Mother, however, the encounter rattles Shaw's faith, ultimately dooming her to a legacy of humiliation and exploitation. Circling back to Romulus, a scene unfolds with imagery similar to both Prometheus and Alien Resurrection, where Kay, recently injected with Promethean fire, a substance presumably derived from the pathogen, gives birth to her child, now a mutated hybrid similar to the newborn. Like the newborn, this creature recognizes Kay as its mother, although its intentions are decidedly more sinister and selfish, as it suckles the substance from her corpse, sapping nourishment from the one it deems mother. Marian parallels exist in Alien Romulus as well, despite director Fede Alvarez confirming that Bjorn is the true father of Kay's child. The movie is hesitant to provide an identity. The character also wears a necklace with Christian iconography, lending credence to her symbolic role as a holy figure delivering a child via Immaculate Conception. Another poignant scene surrounding Kay comes when Navarro's chestburster emerges. Watching these two characters in close, intimate quarters, while one undergoes a traumatic birthing process, I couldn't help but wonder if Kay thought of her own pregnancy, if the process would be just as agonizing and terrifying for her. She had been portrayed as receptive and optimistic about the prospect of motherhood, until this moment, culminating when she finally delivers her mutated hybrid offspring, pleading, "Get it out." I think the image of the offspring feeding from its own mother, killing her in the process, is the perfect summation of the themes present across the films thus far. Every creature we've seen born across these movies, regardless of its parent, has proven to be hostile, destructive. Yet each creature is ultimately the progeny of its parent, and as the pathogen shows, at their roots, mankind and the rogues gallery of xenomorphic specimens are one and the same. Mothers, from the archetypal Earth Mother to the ones we all know and love today, are the providers, the nurturers, the source of nourishment, love, and wisdom for their children. Yet there are instances of children desecrating that sanctity. We see a primal example of this with spiderlings eating their mothers, but a more symbolic example can be found just outside your door. Mankind crawled out of Mother Earth's waters, formed from the primordial ooze, just as much a part of her. And how do we treat her? Day by day, some atrocity is committed against our own world, the Earth Mother which provides so much, whose bounties mankind reaps for their own survival, and yet it is poisoned, exploited, compromised. With how important our world is to us, the way we sometimes treat it is akin to desecrating our own mothers. Mankind likewise suffers as a result. Increased seasonality of pathogens, pollution-based diseases, the spread of invasive species. In a way, we have brought earthly wrath upon ourselves. And just like the vicious evolutionary cycle first sparked on LV-233, usurping the sanctity of motherhood and creating the pinnacle of hostility and destruction, sparked by an arrogant entity with a god complex, it's ultimately our own hubris and ignorance that leads to the hostile destruction of the Earth Mother around us. For as much as the xenomorphs are parasites of mankind, mankind in turn proves to be parasites of its own mother. All throughout the Alien saga, we see instances of powerful corporate entities willing to put fellow humans in harm's way for the sole purpose of attaining one of the xenomorphs. They wish to learn from it. What they don't realize is that all they can learn from this creature has already been taught.